Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. And thank you for joining us for Launch Your Inner Entrepreneur with Charlene Walters. My name is Colin Mahan, and I'm a program manager at the NASDAQ Entrepreneurial Center. For those of you who may not know, the NASDAQ Center is a nonprofit dedicated to enabling entrepreneurs from all over the world to realize their maximum potentials and grow. As you may have just seen in the chat, the NASDAQ Entrepreneurial Center, along with our partner Mentor Club, launched a free mentor matching platform for entrepreneurs called Mentor Makers. Together, we will build the greatest exchange of knowledge and expertise in service to entrepreneurs in business today. So, find or become a mentor today by using the link in the chat to sign up. Mentorship matters to all entrepreneurs. Their success is dependent on it. Quick housekeeping item. We're going to open up for live Q&A at the end of the event, so please submit your questions in the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen throughout the presentation. We will hope to get to all of them. Now, none of what we do here at the center could be possible without all the amazing support from our sponsors, including NASDAQ, Lehigh University, Bank of the West, KPMG, Wilson Sonsini, Woodruff Sawyer, BPM, and NZTE. We are humbled by their contributions. During these still unique times, we're curious on how sentiment is among the entrepreneurs we work with. So we're going to start by taking a poll to let us know how you're feeling about your business and also what's keeping you up at night. So I'm going to launch this poll. Let us know how you're doing. 2020 was a doozy. 2021's looking up. So if you could let us know how you're doing, that would be great. Also, what's keeping you up at night helps us develop the responsive programming to help you as entrepreneurs overcome your challenges. So I'm going to give that a couple moments, but don't want to take too much time, so I want to jump into the content. So thank you for your votes. Looks like optimism is in the lead, and pretty big mix on the topics. So I'm going to end this poll and share those results real quick with you all. Optimism is in the lead, but totally understandable that some of you are still anxious and surviving out there. Hopefully this talk today will help relieve some of that anxiety. Finance, sales, pivoting, and surviving also at the top of our polls today. So again, hopefully our special guest will help you with some of those challenges. So without any further delay, please join me in giving a warm welcome to our special guest today. Charlene Walters is an entrepreneurship coach, a business and branding mentor, and author of Launch Your Inner Entrepreneur, 10 mindset shifts for women to take action, unleash creativity, and achieve financial success. Charlene, welcome.
Thank you so much, Colin, and nice to see you, everyone. I am super happy to be here with you today.
Amazing. Well, we're super happy to have you. So we're going to just dive right in. Charlene, your journey is truly unique. Can you talk a little bit about what drew you to entrepreneurship and how you got to where you are today?
Sure, definitely. And unique is a good word for it. I think it just what came about in a roundabout way. It wasn't a straight line. It was a lot of ups and downs and U-turns. Undergrad, I started off as an English major. And when I graduated, I went to school in Connecticut and it was freezing cold there. And I said, I'm moving out of this cold Northeast. And I moved to Miami as soon as I could. And I got a job in sales. And during that job in sales, I really kind of gained this love of business. I wanted to learn more about it and decided to go back to school and get my MBA and eventually a PhD in marketing. And throughout my career, I was sort of back and forth between higher ed and marketing. And eventually I ended up in higher ed working on curriculum. That sort of became my specialty. And I got a position working on creating an MBA program for a digital entrepreneurship. And I loved it. It was so wonderful choosing the books, working on the courses, helping entrepreneurs develop their plans to move their business goals into reality. And it just developed another passion of mine. And I also started doing some mentoring with Entrepreneur Magazine's Ask an Expert platform. And I got to, again, work with more of the entrepreneurs out there, help them realize their dreams and their goals. And I've been hooked ever since. Eventually, I launched my own side hustle and continued to the point where I took it full time. And I'm also an entrepreneur, just like all of you. And that's brought me here today to talk to all of you.
No entrepreneur's journey is ever linear.
It is.
So what was the aha moment that led you to writing Launch Your Inner Entrepreneur?
So I always wanted to be an author. It's been a lifelong goal, as you can tell, because I was an English major. So I was having lunch with some colleagues, and one of my colleagues said, I'm writing a book. And I thought, oh, I need to get back to my book writing, right? So I decided to write a book, and I met with a lot of people in the publishing industry because it was new to me. And they said, you have mad expertise in business. That's where you need to launch your book. So I started researching and thinking about all of the topics that I write about, that I talk about, where I could really add value. And I landed on entrepreneurial mindset. And when I started looking at what was on the market already, I realized that there weren't any books particularly aimed at women for entrepreneurial mindset. So that's where I decided to go. And the book is focused on women, but as I tell the other men who have read it and said they can relate, it's all something that everyone can really enjoy and relate to. You just have to be careful of the, hey, you go girl, every now and again. Otherwise, everybody can read it, but it is focused for women primarily.
Love it. So speaking of female founders, how will female entrepreneurs reshape the business world in 21?
So we've seen, obviously 2020 was a hard hit for women. We had 2.2 million women leave the workforce, which is just a crazy number. It's really disappointing. And that was for many reasons. They were more impacted by furloughs, layoffs. Some just exited voluntarily because they had to homeschool and they had more responsibilities. And they were having a hard time juggling everything, frankly. So we've seen a lot of women continue to turn to entrepreneurship, particularly now, even mid-pandemic, because they have greater control over their careers, over their earnings, and over their schedule, frankly, which is more important for women. So we've seen them launch a lot of new businesses. And as we emerge from this pandemic, I think we'll see that trend continue. So they're continuing to change the business landscape with their new products and services. And I think it's a really great thing for women and for business in general.
I think it's a great thing too. So, you know, many female founders in our community have told me that it's challenging. Why do women entrepreneurs need extra support?
So there are a lot of reasons, success has to do with mindset. And there's something known as the confidence gap, which is the difference in confidence levels between men and women. Women sometimes, they have this need to be perfect or close to perfect before they put themselves out there. And it has to do with the way we were raised, the way we were brought up. We've seen it in corporate jobs where women only apply for positions when they have 100% of the qualifications versus men who are quick to go out there and apply when they only have 60% of the qualifications. So women find it a little scarier to do something that's new and out of their comfort zone, which is exactly what they'll be doing as new entrepreneurs. They also tend to suffer a little more from imposter syndrome, which is that feeling that they don't really belong. They've only gotten lucky with their successes. They shouldn't be entrepreneurs when really they're just as capable. It's just about changing their mindset to get them more confident in those situations, to learn how to prepare more and to get in there. And also sometimes women have a more challenging time with selling. Selling often brings with it this negative connotation, right? We're bugging people, we're annoying them, we're being too pushy. And that's something that women sometimes struggle with, but it's something certainly that we need to get over as entrepreneurs because we're going to be selling and doing those revenue generating activities all the time. And we have to get good at it, right? And there are some other things we have to get a little bit better at: negotiating, taking risks, becoming a little more innovative and creative. It's not that we can't do these things, it's sometimes we need to just get into the practice of it and develop the right mindset to be successful.
So why do all entrepreneurs need to think differently in 21?
Well, as we saw in 2020, right, it was a wonky times. I forget the adjective you used. Maybe it was unique, maybe it was crazy. It was very wonky. So we had to adjust to everybody kind of going underground, going in their houses and sheltering in. We had to change our businesses so that we could better adapt to customers' changing needs and preferences. And this will continue on in 2021. We're starting to emerge. We're starting to see people go out more and more. We have a whitewater rafting center here in Charlotte, North Carolina. I was there this past weekend and I tell you, it was packed. It was back to old times practically. So as we come out, again, we're going to be shifting. There's just been so much change for business owners and we've had to constantly pivot and adapt and put ourselves out there. I read something, an article that said the past year has been worth 10 years worth of changes in most industries. And we've had to keep adapting, and we'll keep doing that as we see the buying patterns change for consumers. And the best thing we can do is pivot and just kind of keep up with those changes. So we, again, just dig deep, watch what others are doing, and really listen to what customers are saying and watch what's changing in terms of your business, and find new ways to get at those customers and to adapt to their changing needs.
And as you saw in the poll, optimism is on the rise in our
Yes.
community.
We are optimistic, and people do want to go back and do all those things that we missed out on. So it's going to be so interesting to watch the different industries go up and down based on these new developments.
Totally. So how are entrepreneurs uniquely positioned to weather uncertainty?
Jumping into entrepreneurship itself is a giant leap, right? We all want to be entrepreneurs. We all think it's really attractive to be our own bosses. But when push comes to shove, we don't want to give up that, nice, steady paycheck that we have coming in. We're often kind of a little more reluctant. So those entrepreneurs that have done that are already more comfortable with risk taking. We're already more innovative. And the good thing about it is that as a small business owner or as an entrepreneur, we have more control. We're able to change more quickly than a larger organization. There's not as much bureaucracy and red tape. So again, we're able to adapt and adjust quickly, particularly during times like now when we don't know what's coming next or what's around the next corner. So that really plays in our advantage as entrepreneurs. We're also more innovative and creative. And as I said earlier, we can get out there and we can watch what others are doing successfully and try to replicate that for our business. And that doesn't have to be our direct competitors. That can be any business. And the more we listen to and research and watch others and observe, the more we learn and we can apply to our businesses. So entrepreneurs have many of the qualities that it takes to kind of weather these terrible, crazy times.
Yeah. Speaking of the times, how has COVID-19 impacted small businesses and startups, and what should they do to navigate our now changing world?
Yeah, so as I said before, really it's important to stay close to customers and your frontline employees. That's really the people that have the most information. And as I mentioned, things are changing. Consumer needs and preferences are changing. Maybe your customers have saved up a lot of money during the pandemic and now they're ready to buy, right? So we have to kind of stay on top of that, see what they're interested in and how we can help them better as they come out. And again, it's just constantly surveying them, staying close to them, listening to frontline employees, and also watching other industries and taking a lead from them. There are so many changes. We see a big shakeup in remote work, non-remote work, what things are doing, and really just keeping our finger on the pulse is the best thing we can do, just kind of as we emerge, because again, it's going to be another 10 years worth of change coming up, and we'll have to keep moving. And you've seen a lot of you as business owners have done it, and you can do it again, I promise you. You're already in the spirit of it, and it's just kind of following that path forward.
I love that. So obviously the book is focused on female entrepreneurs. So why is helping women in business important to you?
So when my kids were only 2 and 4, they're in high school now, my husband left for work one day and was involved in an accident and passed away, unfortunately. He just never came home. This was like a horrible time, obviously, in my life. I had 2 little toddlers running around. I was mid PhD at the time. I was working a couple of jobs. And I just thought to myself, there is no way that I can raise these children on my own. There is no way I'll finish my PhD. There is no way I'm going to do all the things that I want to do now. Like I thought my life was just ruined and, nothing was possible. But as anyone does in that kind of situation with little kids and, a life to go forward with, you have to really dig deep and keep pressing on. And I became, a sole breadwinner for my family right then and there. And so many things have happened to me that probably would have never happened had that bad event had not had happened to me. So I've been able to kind of go into new career directions. I've become my own entrepreneur. I've really focused on becoming a breadwinner. And so therefore helping other women who are in similar situations or maybe are the primary breadwinner for their family. I read a stat recently that over 42% of women are the primary breadwinner. So it's very important to me because I know that kind of pressure. I know what it's like to have all of that responsibility on your shoulders. So I'd really like to help others and show them, that I was okay, I made it through, and you can do it too.
Wow. Well, thank you so much for sharing a little bit about your experience for us. And of course, resiliency and your grit proved to be, pay off.
Definitely. Resilience is important no matter what we're doing in business and in life.
Amazing. So, speaking of resilience, can you speak to some of the habits in your life that have helped make you successful? Because I'm sure many of our entrepreneurs would love to learn some of those.
So I am very tenacious. I think if I were to die tomorrow, they'd write, boy, she really tried on my headstone, right? Because I will go after whatever I want with all my heart. If I want it, I'm either all the way in or all the way out. So I will go full force and I will keep trying until I get there. And I think it's important to realize that there's a lot of failure, a lot of rejection, a lot of setbacks before success. Often we see people at the top of their success, they've done all these wonderful things, but we haven't seen the 10 years of hardship that was before that, right? Nobody's posting on Instagram, boy, I got rejected 10 times today, right? So I am very tenacious and I'm always willing to come up with a plan B, C, D, E, and F. And that's not to say that I don't feel bad or I don't feel hurt when something goes wrong. I just find a way to reset my mindset to get me out of that and to come back to it fresh. And that's really helped me in the long run. Something else that I've really done throughout my career, which I think a lot of people need to do more, is that I've always made whatever I was doing something that I really enjoy by pulling in those elements and things that I like to do. People would often say, you get to do such cool things in your career. How does that happen? How did you get those things? And it really wasn't anything that was ever handed to me on a silver platter, right? We all control our own entrepreneurial journey. We all control our destiny. So I just really made it a best practice to pitch at and try to get those things that really appealed to me and that I was passionate about. And I think those two things have really helped further me in my career and in my entrepreneurial journey.
It's amazing. Yeah, they say you don't work a day in your life if you have fun with it.
Yeah, absolutely. And we can always have fun, no matter what it is.
So your book talks about the 10 mindset shifts and why are they so critical for female entrepreneurs, especially?
So, as I've been saying throughout, there's nothing that is great that'll happen to us in life without having the right mindset. Mindset is such a big correlation for success, right? Even more so than being intelligent, even more so than being innovative. We have to get into the groove where we're taking action, we're setting our goals, we're going after them, we're managing our time, and then we're developing those skills in terms of resilience and innovation and creativity that we need to make it happen. So the book really focuses on those areas, as I mentioned earlier, that women sometimes struggle with. I've mentioned a few of them. Another one is time management and work-life balance, which is huge for entrepreneurs, in women particularly, because often the load of the family obligations fall on them, and I know there are men who help out there, so I'm not dissing any of you, but often it falls on women. So we've got to get really good about managing our time and really taking care of ourselves as entrepreneurs, because we can focus all of our energy, all of our time into that business and then neglect our health, which is not good for us at all, right? So we have to be good about knowing when to say no, right? Knowing how to deal with anything that kind of sidelines us and gets us off track, and developing a sort of a schedule and trying to stick with that as closely as possible. And then making sure we have enough rest, that we're eating well, that we're working out when we need to, because the happier and healthier we are, the better we'll be in all aspects of our life, with our business, with our customers, with our families, with whoever is important to us. So those all require mindset shifts and adjustments. And changing your mindset in these many different areas will lead to your entrepreneurial success.
That's great advice. And I've often said that entrepreneurs are great at solving everyone else's problems except for their own.
So true.
But at the end of the day, you need to take care of yourself. So I think that's sound advice from your end.
Thank you.
You talked a little bit about your personal setbacks, but how have they contributed to your role as an entrepreneur and a leader?
Yeah, so resilience is so key for everything we're doing. And the more I fall down, the more likely I am to find a way out of it. And I've done this time and time again. I've had little setbacks, little rejections along the way, and they hurt and they sting. And a lot of times, and this is why a lot of people start out with new businesses and they give up because they encounter something big. So because I've had those personal experiences, I've been through a lot of different careers and I've picked up a lot of skills along the way, I've been able to apply those and use that when I'm feeling bad about something and to really find a new path. And we can't predict anything. We can't predict business. None of us would have predicted what we've been through in 2020 and 2021, right? So we've got to use those qualities, as I've done, just to keep moving ahead and take what we're good at and really apply it. Anything that's held us back. Often for me, if someone gives me a rejection, I try to get the feedback and find out what I can do better. Or if there's an obstacle, I learn as much as I can. And the more we're doing that and learning and growing, which has happened to me so many times when something's gone wrong, I've used it, I've redirected, I pivoted, and I found a new path. And that's what we're doing all the time in business.
Channel that energy to something productive.
Yes, we do.
So there are many challenges being an entrepreneur, but what are some of the biggest challenges that you've seen being a founder?
So I think one of the biggest challenges, well, I meet with a lot of entrepreneurs as a mentor, and a lot of times, entrepreneurs, they have so many goals, right? They want to do a million and one things, and sometimes they find it's hard to focus. And as an entrepreneur, that happens to me too. So it's important not to kind of go it alone. It can be lonely to be an entrepreneur. You feel like you're all by yourself, particularly as a solopreneur. So you can just get out there and try to find that support system, whether you set up a mastermind group with other entrepreneurs or you have a mentor. I always suggest, having a mentor is a really great best practice. They help you stay on track. The other big obstacle for entrepreneurs is that we're really impatient, but it takes a long time to gain traction and move your business forward. And we feel like we're just sitting still and nothing's happening as an entrepreneur. I know it happens to me all the time. I feel like things aren't going quickly. And then people ask me, well, what are you working on? And I'll list, 15 things. And they're saying, well, that's what you've done in the last month. So sometimes we lose sight. So I always recommend that as an entrepreneur, you keep a journal of everything you're working on. Then you flip back through it and then you'd be surprised that, wow, a few months ago, that was what I was worried about. That was nothing. That was so far ago. So you're really going much faster than you think. So you have to learn to really develop that patience and also just work on, managing your time, setting your goals, and then sticking with them a little at a time. And I think those are big challenges for entrepreneurs.
Amazing. Goal setting is very important, and so is focus, but
Yes.
easier said than done.
Yes, absolutely.
So you mentored tons of entrepreneurs. So what are your top three qualities of a successful founder?
So I would say number one is really persistence, right? You have to be persistent. You have to set those goals and you have to keep going after it. And you have to know that going in, right? Know that it's going to be worth the wait, but that it will take a lot of grit and hard work to get there. And sometimes you feel like you're working, and that you don't see those results, but if they'll get there eventually. Sometimes the results are delayed. So just stick with it. I think another big one is innovation, right? Just having that ability to get out there and sort of having that growth mindset where you're continuing to learn. And what I suggest to people in order to increase innovation and creativity is to start going to new places, listen to people you wouldn't normally, follow somebody you have no interest in on Instagram or on Twitter, or go to a workshop for something that has nothing to do with your business, nothing to do with your industry, because you can pick up something from every single person that you interact with and you learn from. And it's just so important to continue to do that and continue to learn. And the other one, really, to be successful as an entrepreneur is to focus on those revenue generating activities. So many of us, we kind of want to do the big glamorous things. We want to work on our website. We want to work on our social media. We want to work on all this stuff. But really, we have to make it a priority to focus on those activities that are bringing money in, getting more comfortable with selling, and then really having that sales plan, how we're going to reach customers, what our outreach is, and really focus on that and make that a big priority. So those are the three things that I often say that lead to success.
Amazing. There's a question in the Q&A box that's based on my next question that I'd love for you to answer is, what are the first steps you suggest to new entrepreneurs for getting started? There's so many things.
There are so many things. So I often talk to new entrepreneurs or those aspiring entrepreneurs. What they should start with is looking at the skills they have, their areas of expertise, their interests, kind of brainstorming and jotting them all down. And then also what they're passionate about and see what kind of businesses align with that. And then going from there and trying to zero in on a business. Maybe they're really interested in housing or real estate. Maybe they're interested in cooking. Maybe they're great at it. Maybe they have really wonderful people skills and want to work with tutoring or teaching others. It just depends on what they're most interested in. But as they start to brainstorm, make that list, then start researching, maybe 2 to 3 businesses that are already out in the market, and then looking to see where there's an unmet need or a hole in the market or something that they could do better, and then developing their business concept around that. And then from there, it's planning, etc. But really doing that research up front, properly identifying your target audience, your business concept, and your unique selling proposition or that thing that sets you apart will really enable you to be successful as an entrepreneur. And also, it's always a good idea to start as a side hustle. That can take some of the risk out of it. You can get all of your plans, all of your research, all of your homework done, and get some traction with sales before you launch into it full time.
Sound advice. So why is it vital to choose mentors who have your back and hold you accountable? Mentorship is at the core of what we do here at the center. So can you speak a little to this and to share a story of a mentor who's influenced you?
Definitely. So mentors are sort of like your cheerleader, they're your Sherpa, they're everything all in one. And what I like to do when I'm working with entrepreneurs is help them, again, organize their goals, because we have a lot of goals as entrepreneurs. Even myself as an entrepreneur, a lot of times I have to tell myself, take your own advice, Charlene, concentrate on certain things. So mentors will help you sort of align your goals. They can give you suggestions. A lot of times we're working so hard on a problem or our business situation that we can't see other things. And I'm not saying the mentor is going to have all the answers all the time and tell you exactly what to do. That's not the point. The point of a mentor is really helping you to be your best, the best you can be, and directing you towards those things you want to do with your business in the right way. They save you time. They hold you accountable. I often give my mentees some homework at the end of our sessions. Here's what you need to focus on next time. And that's what you really need, because again, it's very lonely as an entrepreneur. There's a lot going on. It is so valuable to have someone to bounce ideas off of. And I think sometimes, it's nice to have one mentor to kind of guide you along, but there are many mentors along the way that you can go to. Maybe you're launching into a new business. This is what happened to me when I started publishing my book. I didn't know anything about publishing. So I met with people that knew more than I did, listened to what they had to say, and it was so helpful for me in guiding my movement forward. I've also just picked up words from people along the way, listening to people. Maybe it's a couple of sentences, but they really redirected and helped me. And so that's what you have to keep an open mind. It's nice to have a strong mentor to help guide your business. And they save you time, money, efforts. They've already gone through what you have. So they're kind of pushing you forward. And then here and there, look for some supplemental information as well. And that's what I've done throughout my career. I haven't had one set mentor, but I have learned from so many people and continue to learn from people along the way.
Amazing. And for those of you who haven't already, sign up for Mentor Makers. It's a free mentor matching platform. Humble plug, but it is a way to connect with individuals, especially during COVID-19. It's a free and easy way to connect with people who are willing to help.
Yes,
Charlene, while women today are starting more businesses than men, they face a playing field that's not always fair, predictable, or politically correct. Can you comment on why you think that is? And are women in business held to different standards than men?
I think sometimes what happens is there are certain social constructs that we conform to. So women can be judged a little bit more differently than men if they're kind of bragging about their accomplishments or boasting. It's often seen as bragging or boasting, but really they're just talking about it in a way that men wouldn't necessarily be. So that's another part of mindset shift, is just becoming more comfortable and confident with putting yourselves out there front and center, because it isn't the norm and you can get judged based on the way you're brought up. Sometimes we're raised to be a little more humble and to not brag and to not boast. So we've got to get more comfortable. Women are also less likely to negotiate, which can really get them in terms of how much they're charging as entrepreneurs, or in the corporate world, they're being paid less, for example. So there are many things, and they go back to the times when men were the primary breadwinners, right? So things have changed, but our society hasn't necessarily caught up with that, although we've made a lot of great strides and women are rising to higher and higher levels. It's just not as frequently to match the number of breadwinners we have that are women. So women just have to get into those areas, and becoming an entrepreneur is a great way to do that because you're forced into all these things that were uncomfortable to you in the past, and you're gaining that kind of experience, that traction, and that confidence, which is exactly what you need to be successful.
I love that. Um, so you mentioned a little bit about this, and I'd love to unpack it a little bit. So what are the advantages of starting a side hustle, and how does somebody begin?
So starting a side hustle is a really great thing, as I said before, because it mitigates a lot of the risk, right? And you don't have to jump completely. I think a lot of people really want to be entrepreneurs, but they kind of stumble when it comes to actually making it happen. So this is a good way to test the waters. And I think the worst thing that can happen is that it doesn't work out quite like you wanted it, but you haven't given up your day job at the same time. So a good way to begin is to, again, look at those areas, look at your schedule, and look at what you really want to do. What's your why? Why do you want to start a business? What do you want to get from it? What do you eventually want to lead to? Some people want to become entrepreneurs because they want to have a big multi-million dollar corporation. Some people just want to do it to add value, to make a difference in the world. And some people just want a little bit of extra money on the side. So think about your schedule, what hours you're willing to commit, what you're interested in, what might be doable, what there's a market for near you that you can get to and make time for, and start looking at those things. Also look at your talents. I mentioned before, a lot of people are great with cooking, that's not me, by the way. I would never do well in any type of catering business. But there's a lot of different, areas that people are good at and where they can contribute their time and energy, and that would work around their other obligations and schedules. So I think that's a good way to go. And again, make it something that you're really interested in case you're interested in really pushing that to a full-time gig. And sometimes another thing I like to remind entrepreneurs is sometimes you start with one thing and you watch your business sort of evolve to something else. And having a side hustle is a good way to kind of test that, test your minimum viable product, start reaching out to customers, getting feedback, and then kind of morphing and evolving into a business that can really have some solid traction.
Great advice. A lot of people talk about imposter syndrome. And so how can our entrepreneurs who are dealing with it overcome it?
So what I tell people who are suffering from imposter syndrome, and by the way, I suffer from imposter syndrome all the time too. I mean, I have my moments where I get in an uncomfortable situation. I feel like I'm out of place. I don't feel like I belong. I mean, it just happens to everybody more often than you think. Even these really, really hugely successful people out there, they still suffer from it. So what I suggest to people who are suffering from something is to make a list of everything they've done, all of their accomplishments, all of their skills, hang it somewhere, hang it in your office so that you can check it out when you're having a bad day. You can refer to it. You can see and remind yourself of everything you've done. I also really suggest if you're going into a situation that's a high stakes situation, maybe you have a big pitch coming up, maybe you have a big interview, maybe you have a big client meeting, plan something afterwards either way. I call it having an ups and downs buddy. So if it went well, you did great, you have someone to celebrate with, right? You can celebrate all your successes. It was wonderful, it was great. And if not, you have someone to commiserate with. And always treat everything as a learning experience and know that everyone fails, everybody suffers from this from time to time. Just find a way to get yourself out of it. And I know that whenever someone sort of challenges me or tells me I can't do something, look at it like a challenge, like I am going to prove you wrong. I can do it. I've got this. You don't know what I'm capable of. And practice and prepare and get yourself ready. And that's the good news. Like often when we're really pushed, that's when we'll try even harder and we will actually do better because we're uncomfortable than we would be. And just get, as it's a popularly quoted saying, get comfortable being uncomfortable, because that's the way you're going to learn, you're going to grow. Otherwise, you'll just be sitting still, and you have to keep pushing forward, as we said many times, as an entrepreneur. So do all those things that can bring you about. and just find a way to deal with any negative feelings. I always say, ask for feedback from situations. Maybe you didn't get this client you thought you would, right? So don't let that client just walk away without telling you why. Ask them, hey, I understand. It's okay that you went with someone else. Can you just give me a little more information so that I understand? Maybe there was something that you were doing wrong that now you could do better that you weren't aware of until you had this experience. And now you've fixed it and you'll gain 10 new clients as a result of that change. So there's always something good that can come out of everything. Same thing with dealing with haters. A lot of us are dealing with haters as entrepreneurs. It really helps to kind of get to the bottom of it instead of reacting and see if there's anything that we can take away from that negative message.
I love that. The ups and downs, buddy.
Yes. It's what we all need, an ups and downs buddy.
What steps should someone take to build their thought leadership, presence, and influence? And how can it help them?
So this is a really big one for entrepreneurs, because entrepreneurs, we have to be the face of our business. We have to be front and center all the time. And, the idea of personal branding and thought leadership can be overwhelming for some, particularly if you're more introverted, or maybe you just don't feel comfortable putting yourself out there yet. And it's like that for everyone. When I was first starting out with writing the book and people were talking to me about personal branding and building visibility, I thought, where will I begin? And I started with a blog because that was easy for me to do. I enjoyed writing and I could put it right on my website. It had blogging capabilities built right in. And that was a good way for me to begin. And now I've gone on to do all kinds of things, events, I've gone on to do many articles, and I don't really think twice about what I'm putting out there. But I used to, in the beginning, go back and read through everything, 5 times. Could this be interpreted the wrong way, and you just kind of gain that confidence and traction as you're going along. In fact, I was doing an article on personal branding, and someone that follows me on Instagram sent me a message and said, that really helped me because I was nervous to put myself out there. And it brought me back to the time when that was me. So start somewhere. Don't feel like you have to do everything all at once. You can do blogging, you can do speaking, you can do podcasting. Podcasting is an excellent way today to build visibility. You can just become a guest on a podcast, right? And go on a bunch of different podcasts, or you can start your own. But it is great for networking. You get to know so many other people. You learn a lot, you share ideas and information, and you're putting yourself out there in a big way. When you're starting to think about what you want to be known for, maybe it's 2 or 3 things. Maybe you want to be known as a parenting expert. Maybe you are the cupcake guru, whatever it is. Think about how you want to position yourself and then inserting yourself that way. You can also look for opportunities to be quoted in media outlets. There are a lot of organizations and platforms out there that match experts with these journalists who are looking for people to quote, right? So Help a Reporter Out is one that I've joined, and that started me out early on the path doing things. And then look for opportunities, try to network and get to know other organizations. Maybe you're joining LinkedIn groups or Facebook groups that are related to your business. But there are plenty of ways, very important as a business owner and even as an employee. So I encourage you, if you haven't already, to work on your personal branding and thought leadership.
Yeah, and social media makes it relatively easy for people to do that these days, right? I mean, you don't always have to be a brilliant writer. I think a lot of people share their story through video, through Instagram Reels, which is a new thing. Even TikTok, you're talking about the cupcakes. I know many people who find cool recipes through that platform, even though I'm still kind of
never underestimate the power of TikTok. It's really a great platform to get yourself out there. And there's opportunities for everyone out there to do it. I saw somebody, she was a grandmother who started all these cooking videos on TikTok, and she really took off. I saw her on Drew Barrymore's show the other day. So really, it's up to you, however you want to do it, whatever you're most comfortable with. Maybe video is not your thing. Maybe writing is not your thing. Do a combination. Social media is great because we have access to all kinds of influential people. We can join the conversation. We can get to know other people. And again, that has led to so many opportunities for me as an entrepreneur and as a thought leader. I've gotten to know so many great connections on LinkedIn, on Twitter, on Instagram, and you can too. And, people are really accessible, so take advantage.
I love that. So your book has a ton of great nuggets that we've touched on a little bit, but what's one piece of advice from the book that you'd hope our entrepreneurs take away today?
So my biggest piece of advice is that for anyone, no matter what, as an entrepreneur or otherwise, is that you really can do whatever you put your mind to. And I love to stress that because sometimes we lack the confidence in ourselves and we need to build it up, or maybe we're sabotaging ourselves, but you really can do whatever you want. Set your goals, develop your micro steps to make it happen, and then just stick with it. Find that way to come out from that adversity and keep moving forward. And so that's always my main message for everyone is to go after your dreams, have that confidence, dig deep. You can do it. I've done it. Colin's done it. We've all done it. We've all been where you are. Just go for it. Keep reaching and you'll get there eventually.
Well, that's amazing advice. Just a quick heads up to those of you on the call. We're going to open up for Q&A in a moment. So drop those questions in. There's some good ones that we're going to get to, but if you have anything you want to ask Charlene, just let us know in the Q&A function at the bottom of the screen. Charlene, before we jump into that, what's next for you?
So funny you should use those words. I'm working on my next book, which is tentatively titled What's Next? And it's going to be about how we as entrepreneurs, business owners, those of us who are working in corporations can move forward as we emerge from the pandemic. So a lot of things we talked about, the changing workforce, changing customer needs, the future of remote work in different industries. So I'm working on that right now. I also just launched a new show called Launch. It is on Roku, Amazon Fire, and Apple News. And it's super exciting. I get to host and interview a variety of experts. Right now I'm on at 7:30 in the morning, so you can catch me on DB&A channel. Love it for you to check it out. And also it might move time slots in another couple of weeks, but I'll keep you posted. You can follow me on social media in the meantime if you want to find out more at either C. Walters PhD or Charlene Walters PhD on most platforms.
Amazing. And I just dropped those links in the chat just in case you guys want to check her out, follow her on Twitter. All right, let's jump into some of these questions. What are the top 3 pitfalls one should avoid? And I'm guessing that's from an entrepreneurial perspective.
Top 3 pitfalls. Well, I guess I've probably mentioned a couple of them, but definitely the biggest one I see is the failure to focus on revenue generating activities. That happens a lot. People get distracted, and it really has to be the number one priority because that will lead to your ultimate success. So make sure you're making that a number one. I also see sometimes in new entrepreneurs that they want to define their target audience too broadly, right? So they want to do everyone age 5 to 75 or whatever it is. And really, the more narrow your target market, the better you'll be able to reach them. So really doing that homework up front is another pitfall that I see, is that failure to research the product, make sure that you develop an MVP or a minimum viable product and that you test it out with users and get their feedback first before we launch. We want to launch quickly, but we also want to make sure that we have a product that other people want and need. Just because we think it's a great, wonderful idea doesn't mean that it will resonate with everyone else. So those are the 3 areas that I tend to see the biggest mistakes happen, but it depends again on the business and the industry too.
Amazing. Yeah, we have a good friend over at Lehigh University who at board meetings has a sign, to your point on the revenue generating activities, that literally he pulls up every once in a while and says, "Is this a revenue generating activity?"
And it's true. Like, we really have to think about everything, has to be related to our business. We might be a really cool idea, might be a really cool project, but if it's not really generating revenue, then it's kind of a waste of time, in business terms. So we've got to really think about that.
Amazing. Another question from Melanie. How do you find a mentor that's a good match for you?
So a good way to find a mentor that's a good match for you is to really think about your personality. A lot of mentors will offer you, kind of a consultation. You can meet with them ahead of time. Really think about what you want to get from this mentor, particularly where your weaknesses are and how they can complement you. And make sure you have a good rapport and get along. Sometimes you'll have one mentor to kind of help you through some big periods. Maybe it's a big launch. Maybe you're just starting off and you'll need them more often. Then maybe it could be different people here and there who have little bits of expertise that you need. So really think about those things. Make sure that you get along and that they have skills that complement what you're looking for.
Great advice. How would you reach out to potential customers?
Depends on your business.
Yes.
Kind of a broad question. But I mean, you want to get a lot of times you can collect people that might be interested by putting your content out there. Maybe you create a free guide for someone to help them. Maybe you're in real estate and you talk about the local community. And then you offer them, a free download of this guide. And then you collect their email addresses and you reach back out to them. So try to find ways to attract them and put great content out there that they might be interested, and that drives people to your website or to your app if you have an app, and so that you can get them kind of into your mix and start interacting with you. That's really the best way to reach customers.
Amazing.
And of course, all of the marketing activities and social media ads and all that too. But if we're thinking organically and we're thinking thought leadership content, that's also a good method too.
Great. And Charlene, earlier you said asking for feedback when potentially situations don't go the way that you'd like to. So somebody asked, what type of feedback are you looking for, pros or cons?
So yeah, both pros and cons. You particularly want to know why it went bad. Like, why did you lose that customer? Why didn't you get the gig? Why, what held you back? And a lot of times as people, we can assign our own meaning to something, right? So maybe we think it's something we did. Maybe we think they don't like us. Maybe we think it's something that's really has nothing to do with it. So the important thing to do there is find out what the true reason is and what we can learn from it, and use it to our advantage. And then just say, what did you see as my strengths as well? What made you consider me? What made you reach out to me? And what can I do better in the future? I think the more questions we ask, find out what we did well and what we didn't do so well, the better we'll learn about ourselves and our business and be able to get those deals next time and really push our business to the next level. So ask whenever you can. I've also had people talk to me about, sometimes there's conflicts with working with people and they're not getting along, and we'll assign our own meaning to whatever's going on there, and maybe it's something that we're not even didn't realize we did, or we did inadvertently. So it's always best, even if it's a difficult conversation, to kind of go after it face forward, be really blunt and direct and respectful, of course, and just ask what we could do better, or if there's a problem or if something's bothering someone. And that really can change things so greatly for you. So I encourage you, just whenever you can, when something goes wrong or something's not going great, to try to get that feedback as often as you can.
I love that. Yeah, feedback loops are important learning opportunities.
Absolutely.
So Octavia, and potentially may want a little bit more color on this one, Octavia, but are there great opportunities for writers out there?
Great opportunities. So there's a lot of opportunities for writers. So I think, I've always wanted to be an author, something I worked on. There are a lot of ways to become an author nowadays. You can self-publish, you can go with a traditional publisher, or you can look at hybrid publishing if you're interested in book publishing. And I read a stat too that there's about 85% of people want to write a book. So this is a large percentage of people. And I think with all of the options available, if that is really a goal of yours, you should absolutely go after it. I know it seems super overwhelming, right? A whole book that you've got to get out there in the world, but think about it at a chapter at a time, make your outline, research what's already on the market, where you might add value, what might be interesting to other people, and then kind of go from there. There are other opportunities to write, and a lot of influencers are writing content for other people. You can get paid with different media outlets. It depends really on what your goals are. Many organizations too, if you're interested in being a freelancer, they hire people to do their marketing content and their marketing copy, and there's a huge need for that. I write blogs for them. So look into those things and really think about what your goals are. But know that if you're interested in publishing a book, that's kind of a long process. I kind of oversimplify it because I'm just doing the little steps. But if you want to go the traditional route, then I suggest looking for a literary agent. And the way you would do that is to come up with a proposal for your book and then pitch it to the agents. And then eventually, and I'm making this again sound very quickly, it takes a while, but eventually you'll kind of come to an agent, hopefully that you really enjoy each other, and then they'll pitch on your behalf for you to the publishers. That's a great way to go. A hybrid publisher is someone where you're actually kind of paying them to do all the service for you. So they're doing all the setup on Amazon, etc. They're doing your editing, they're doing your layout, they're helping you with getting your book to life. And then self-publishing, of course, again, you can do on your own, but I always suggest no matter what, make sure you have an editor. It really pays off to have other people looking at your work. You can get too close to it. So much to do with writing, and we probably could go on with more clarification, but definitely opportunities in writing if that's your thing.
Love it. Yeah, that's probably a whole nother webinar.
It is.
And this is also a whole nother webinar that we've hosted on our YouTube channel. So it's either Basil or Basil, but they asked, how do you convert that TikTok, Instagram / social media activity, which is time consuming, to income production?
So yeah, so I have so many friends that are influencers, and they often ask themselves those same questions. So there are influencer marketing companies that actually match influencers with companies, and that's how you can really monetize them. I think that's one of the most direct ways. Often, sometimes it feels like when you're building your presence on social media or out there in the world, it's not really kind of one-to-one income here. We're not getting revenue right away, but it leads to other opportunities. The more you're out there, the more you're interacting with other people, you'll start having people ask you to come and speak at their events. You'll start having people invite you on their podcast. You'll start being thought of first for those projects and for those positions that come up. So sometimes it's not that direct. It depends what you want to do, but a lot of times people monetize it. They work with other companies and they get paid directly that way. And there's definitely a big opportunity for that. Companies are working with big influencers and also micro influencers and nano influencers, which are just regular everyday people, depending on what the marketing campaigns are. So you definitely have a lot of options if that's what you want. Just think about how you're positioning yourself and then what type of companies would align with the way you're positioning yourself. But you can definitely make money if that's your goal as an influencer. A lot of opportunity there.
Love that. And also for those of you looking to learn some digital marketing tips and tricks, Cliff Worley, one of the Center's advisory board members, did a presentation on this just 6 months ago. So he has the tactical growth hacking methodologies that if you don't want to use an influencer, you can still try to figure out on your own. But that's great advice. I mean, influencers all day long, I see plugging product and people click them. Question from Brandon. Why does a narrow target marker, and I believe he means work, better than a broad one?
So it depends on your product or service, right? But if you're trying to send your message to everyone, you're going to miss. If you have a smaller market, you can find them exactly where they're congregating and you can specialize in that target audience and that target segment. And sometimes you have more than one target segment, and sometimes it evolves over time. But if you're trying to reach everyone too broadly, you're going to miss on a lot of people, right? You're not going to necessarily get into what they want, what their exact needs are, and what they can relate to. So when you identify your target audience, your target segment, you can create a customer persona. You can outline their interests, what their desires are, what their needs are, what keeps them up at night, what motivates them. And then you can target all of your messaging that way. It's just a better way to reach and appeal to people. And it helps to kind of focus your content and all of your messaging that way. If you're too broad, again, depending on your product, again, it could be you have a much larger product. But when you're first starting off, it's often best to really kind of focus in and narrow in on those little segments of customers.
Focused, then learn a lot. I think your first opportunities teach you a lot about how you can expand in the future. But I think too many people put the foot on the gas on the scale engine before it's ready.
Exactly.
So Maha had a question, and forgive me for not remembering the list, but he said, what is the third out of your 3 takeaways? So he says persistence, innovation, blank.
Persistence, innovation.
There was a list of 3.
Yeah, I don't remember exactly which 3 I listed off either. Persistence, innovation, and I think focus on the right, if I'm thinking of the right list of things we did, focus on getting there and really honing in on that niche. I think that's exactly what it was, if I remember correctly.
Amazing. Oh, we still have a little bit more time for a couple questions. There's one question that I always like, that was submitted ahead of time, which is, what do you know now that you wish you knew when you were younger?
It's funny. I think I would have liked to have started this journey earlier on, when I think about things. But if I had, I wouldn't have had all the experiences that have shaped me today. So I think, although I wish I had started my entrepreneurial journey sooner, my path is what led me to where I am and it made me pick up all of these qualities along the way. Something that I wish when I was younger, I didn't have as much confidence to attack things as I do now. And sometimes confidence grows over time. But if I'm looking back and I could do a do-over, I'd kind of get like a little sneak peek of the future and kind of use that confidence and all of those skills and everything I've learned just to kind of position myself a little differently. But again, everything happens at the right time, the way it's meant to. So there's really no turning back. Can't have a do-over, but that's probably generally speaking what I wish I know, like how everything would turn out, what I'd end up doing, and just kind of giving myself that little nudge of confidence.
Amazing. And then one last pre-submitted question that I think everyone would appreciate learning from based on what you just said. So what's the best way to look past anxiety when getting started?
Oh, it's hard. Anxiety is a hard one. It's one I grapple with all the time. I think, get a good support system, look for others who are doing something similar, and try to find a mentor or another buddy to help lead you along because it is very stressful. It's lonely. We feel like we're doing it alone. And why not learn from the shortcuts and the lessons that someone else who's already done it have learned along the way and that they can pass on to you and just give you that little motivation, dig deep, do what you can to build up your confidence. Think about the areas that you might need work on, research, prepare, do what you can. But again, get that support, make a list, set your goals, determine what your timeline is, kind of reverse engineer, really focus on those revenue generating activities and how you can make it happen. And then just get going. And the more you start to go, the more confidence you'll get, the less anxious you'll become, and the more you'll just start to see the traction in your business growing. So just start. You can do it. If you want it, you can make it happen.
Amazing. I love that. Get your ups and downs, buddy, everybody.
Yes. Get that, buddy.
Well, Charlene, thank you so much for joining us, sharing some of your insights, and more importantly, sharing your journey with us today. As we mentioned in the chat, Charlene has a special discounted book that's signed for those of you who'd want to buy the book. So Ice is going to drop that link. It's our special way and her special way of thanking you for joining us today. So just for this community right here, we're going to offer the book at a discounted rate, and it's also going to be signed. But Charlene, love that you've shared your journey with us, and I love your mission to help more women entrepreneurs and also entrepreneurs in general get through these tough times. So really appreciate, on behalf of everyone at the team and everyone in attendance today, we sincerely thank you. For those of you still on the call, we'd love you to join us on our upcoming webinars. For those of you who want to learn how to do some storytelling and pitching, we've got Donna Griffith next week. Also next week, we've got mentorship with military entrepreneurs with U.S. Air Force, Vets in Tech, and GCBL. So thank you all. Thank you, Charlene, for joining us today. We look forward to seeing you back online with us soon. Thanks again.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.